ahead and start. We're about 5 minutes in.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll hand the mic over to you, Michael.
Oh, perfect. I'll just take the mic again. So I would love to first just introduce the webinar's agenda as well as the content we will be sharing today. And then I will hand it off to my associate, Ollie, who is on the call with me. We're primarily going to focus today on, like I said, the kind of adoption in the US, and then how Mitek and Trinsic have collaborated on a use case that Ali will demo. And then we'll both talk a little bit more about how this all works. And then I want to leave a good chunk of time for Q&A, probably about 20 minutes, depending on where we're at. But feel free, as we're talking, to put your questions into the chat. Or sorry, I prefer if you use the Q&A form. You can use the chat as well. We don't have to be very formal today, guys. But the Q&A helps me tag answers or tag questions to answer live while I am talking, and will save us a little bit of time in the end. But this is a very open space. It's a very new technology. Happy to focus on any part of it today and just make this really what you want it to be. So with that, I'll give it over to Ollie to introduce himself, and then I'll jump into and actually, Ollie, why don't you introduce yourself and then jump into an introduction of Mitek. We cannot hear you because you're muted.
There we go. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for the introduction. And thanks for having us here today. Very excited to be part of this. Mobile digital driver's licenses has been kind of the topic for many years, so it's nice to see it's finally coming to fruition. So from my background, I've been in digital identity since 2015, about 10 years now. Started out with a blockchain identity company called Showcard, which was later acquired by Ping Identity, and that is now known as their product Neo. So it's good to see that it's live and thriving. The last 5 years, I've been at Mitek. I work with our more strategic accounts, and digital identity, wallet technology is a passion of mine. So I'm excited for where we are today and where we're going. From a Mitek perspective, Mitek is a global identity verification company. We use a linked and layered approach to decipher ID documents, biometrics, and various data signals to onboard good customers and to prevent fraud. We're publicly traded, we're established and stable, we're profitable, which allows us to invest in R&D and innovations to keep improving our products and services. If you're familiar with the fraud landscape, it's a moving target. It's like playing whack-a-mole. As soon as you figure out one way to mitigate something, something else pops up. So we'll look at it in a more holistic fashion here. So thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Ollie. And just how does Trinsic fit into this industry? Well, for those who have been tuning in to Trinsic's journey over the last 5 years, we started in decentralized identity originally. Me and my two co-founders started Trinsic after working in the open source space at the Sovereign Foundation to build developer tools to create like decentralized identities, specifically create wallets for verifiable credentials. Now, this space has developed extremely quickly, all things considered, and we have focused over the last 2 years. We focused primarily on identity acceptance. So Trinsic helps businesses augment their existing identity verification journey. For example, one that is using Mitek. We augment that by accepting pre-verified users with public and private sector digital IDs. And so you can see a little screenshot on the left here of what the user interface might look like, where you can scan a document, if it's physical, or you can use an ID that you already have. For the context of today, we're going to focus on the mDL here, which I'm in California, so I'll actually be able to show a live demo of the California mobile driver's license. And same with Ollie, actually, too. So with that, actually, let's now just jump into a little bit more about the mDL adoption, and then I will hand it back over to Ollie to share about how this is happening in the real world. So right now, we're seeing kind of this hockey stick growth of states adopting mobile driver's license legislation and slowly but surely launching pilots. We've seen kind of the first mover here be Louisiana, which we are very close to actually launching in the Trinsic platform. The Louisiana mobile driver's license has, I believe, in the order of millions of people actively using their mDL to verify their identity online. And more recently, we're seeing many of these states that initially started legislation go live. This has been aided as well by both Apple and Google Wallet implementing developer APIs for digital ID credentials within their wallets. And many of these use cases initially have been driven by in-person identity verification, primarily at the airports through the TSA. What we are focused on in this webinar is actually remote verification, which the ISO standard for remote verification of mobile driver's licenses has been just published in the last this month, actually just published out of its draft format. So we're gonna see even a greater turning point here as remote verification use cases go live, and we can reduce fraud and friction by simply scanning a QR code and sharing our mobile driver's license versus scanning our physical ID. This couldn't be coming any at a more timely juncture within the industry as generative AI and fraud have just drastically increased. We have these mDL wallets that all have implemented this standard. And like I mentioned, the mobile browsers, the mobile OS operators, as well as browser companies are all collaborating on this standard so that regardless of if you are using your desktop or your phone, you can share your mobile driver's license. And Ollie will actually be able to share both of those experiences today. The primary difference in these specifications for those interested in some of the technical details are in the methods in which the data is transferred. So when it's in person here, we call this the ISO 18013-5 standard. It's quite a mouthful, but this is what we often call a proximity exchange. When this standard uses either Bluetooth or uses near field communication or NFC to transmit identity data directly from the phone to a terminal or a device. If you've gone through the TSA and you see one of those terminals that scans your physical ID card, in California, at least, you now have a digital ID card scanner. You can tap your phone next to it or scan a QR, and it will scan a QR code, and it will actually transmit effectively peer-to-peer. Yay, decentralized identity exists. And there are also some ways to transmit your information via what they call server-side retrieval for a proximity exchange. And this is kind of where the ISO 18013-7 comes into play, where we can now use a variety of existing standards for identity online to transmit my mobile driver's license attributes. And there's been an individual who asked today what the experience with compatibility of different CBOR implementations. That is quite deep. And at this point, I actually don't know the difference, Gary, between all the different implementations of CBOR. I believe we are using the mDoc standard for our -7 implementation. And there are, as you might have seen, there are many different data payload formats that use effectively a extended version of an OAuth protocol to exchange your information. Again, I'm also not the leading engineer at Trinsic who supports this, and I also own Act Like That on the internet. So I can also get back to you more with specific CBOR. But for the -7 format, at least, these specifications are extremely flexible. But that means that all of these wallets tend to have a slightly different flavor. And that is where Trinsic's universal API for all of these wallets has been a huge benefit to folks trying to POC and run pilots. And that leads me into this use case where Ollie can share more. And then I'll actually give the screen share over to Ollie as well, so he can go ahead and share both
Actually,
video
Michael,
and any other content.
I'll take
Oh,
that
yep.
slide first. There's a couple
Great.
leading up to the demo if you want to put the screen back up.
Great. Yep.
Great. Thanks
Go
so
for
much.
it.
So, really, what's the benefit? We're finally at the stage where, this is becoming a reality. Mobile digital driver's license, digital identities are becoming a reality. And what's the benefit for our customers? It's really the user experience. If you've ever, had to fumble around and grab your identity document, make sure you have the proper lighting, make sure, everything is, you're in the right environment, you have the right connectivity. You know how much of a challenge that can be, and it's not a great user experience. So there's also the benefit that it brings from a higher assurance. So getting credentials, getting verification from a trusted authority like a government provides the highest assurance. You also know that you're getting connected by that government entity to provide the assurance and make sure that you're going to mitigate some fraud. And also some of the the fears that I have as a consumer is when I'm presenting my personal information, my driver's license, my biometrics, is that party that I'm supplying it to, are they trusted? Are they going to keep that information safe? Are they going to get breached? So with mobile digital driver's licenses, you're only passing just the information that's required, and it's not going to be in clear text. It's going to be just through digital signatures. And that provides a lot more value, not only to the consumer, but to the businesses and the entities that utilize that, and being able to use that in more places, both in the digital world and also in the physical world. Okay. Next slide, please.
Oops. Yep. Sorry. There's weirdness right now with using this slide share. Okay, there we go.
Cool. So what we're going to do is kind of walk you through a use case. This is a demo. It's a made up use case here, but it's very close to being a reality. Turo is, if you're not familiar with them, they're a marketplace for car rentals, basically a peer-to-peer marketplace, similar to Airbnb, and they use identity verification in their onboarding and account opening workflows, as well as authentication and re-verification during pickup and drop off of the vehicles. So I'm going to walk you through our demo of that. There's both a desktop version and a mobile only version. The desktop incorporates desktop to mobile. For time purposes, we're going to just go through the mobile, but if there's time and we want to show the other one, we can do that as well. So I'll go ahead and take that over if you don't mind. Okay. So the user, I'm going to show a user journey for onboarding. The user lands on the landing page. They're asked to fill out the relevant information at a high level to get the process started. You submit that information. And today we're using a recorded demo just to for smoothness. And so first thing that we're going to do actually is to do the is to confirm the person's liveness. We want to make sure that this is a real live person. So we're using Mitek's technology here to capture the image of the facial biometrics. And this is to do two things. One is to make sure that it's a real live person, not a spoof, not an injection, not an AI generated image, that it's not a replay, it's not a copy of a copy. And then also that comparison is going to be used, that image is going to be used to do a comparison against my mobile driver's license image there to do a comparison, make sure it's the same person. Not only that it's a live person, but it's the same person. So this process is fairly, it has some friction, but as far as this overall process, it's something that Mitek has refined and created a very smooth process. So captures my face. We send this biometrics is going to be done on the server side. So it's not device biometrics, it's actually true biometrics it's not to protect me from getting into the device. It's not access control. It's actually real true biometrics. So once that's processed, I will have been able to pass that phase of the account opening. And then now I'm going to get to a landing page where then I can, see where I am in the workflow. To create a greater account security, I'm going to use a passkey, enable a passkey to bind my account and create better security. Now that passkey is active. Now it's also asking me to provide additional documentation, and you can see here, these are all the verifiers that Trinsic can offer. You can actually do it the old-fashioned way, doing the scan the driver's license, but we're going to use the California driver's license, the mobile driver's license to capture that. The app opens up and you can see here all the attributes and information that I'm being requested to share. So as a consumer, I'm familiar with what's going to be shared. I can feel comfortable with what I'm sharing, and if I don't feel comfortable, I can reject this. So I obviously feel comfortable here. I'm going to accept, and that's going to basically pass my credentials to the relying party. And from that perspective, they can trust that this has, been approved and verified by a trusted authority, and I can use this to complete my my application and my onboarding. So this is good for onboarding, but this is also can be used for re-verification at pickup and other use cases. It provides a much stronger and better user experience overall. So yeah, I'm very excited about where we're heading with this.
Great, thank you, Ali. And I'll just jump now back into the slides. And then I'm actually going to just briefly set up my screen before that to share a live demo, which I wasn't planning on doing until this morning. And then I realized that the video I had recorded does not include some of the new features that our developers have just added to Trinsic. So I want to share a little bit more about how all of this works. So let me go through that really briefly for everyone here. And then we will, let's see, go from there. And then basically, I'll try to keep myself pretty concise. Someone can, Ali or Kelly can make a signal if they feel like I'm rambling just a little bit too much, so that we can give you guys all time for questions. But also just feel free to answer questions as much as, or sorry, ask questions as much as you'd like during this time. So just before we jump into how it works, the challenges that I have uncovered through my product research in Trinsic is that like people around the world, businesses around the world, and I'm curious to hear if people here are feeling any of these similar problems. People around the world right now are struggling to actually know just what is like what is going live and when and where. So where, what, and when? What kind of attributes can I now verify from which countries, and when will they be live? Well, we've done that research and we've put together basically a single API to maintain many, of these different ID providers all in a single workflow. And then we've mapped all of the attributes that you get from these different ID cards into a single normalized output that can meet use cases anywhere from just age verification all the way up to a complete bank grade KYC. Um, all while managing the security and compliance overhead around the PII. We were just pen tested and are finishing up our audit around SOC 2 Type 2 certification. And then we actually have a proprietary, not proprietary, it's a passkey implementation that uses end-to-end encryption for all of the PII that is managed on our servers. So we still maintain that self-sovereign identity core of Trinsic, where we really care about secure control of PII by an individual. At this point, if any individual chooses to store PII outside of their wallet, outside of their mobile app, that will be managed by them and encrypted such that Trinsic nor Mitek nor a relying party like Turo has access to that information until the user consents to it. All right, so I'm really excited about that. And let me just jump now into the dashboard before I go into everything else. Well, actually, yeah. It's better in the dashboard, isn't it? Okay, so this is our dashboard view. Can you all see my screen still? Okay, great. I can't remember if I shared my whole desktop or just the slides. This is one of the pages that we just released yesterday, actually, which shows all of the providers that we are supporting. So obviously, if you don't have a digital ID, you can use a document scan. We are not intending to be like a competitor to document scanning providers. We intend to be an augmentation. But for those who don't have one, we have a very basic document scanning solution that will normalize and output basically the same data you're going to get from another solution. You can see here, many of these methods are from Europe. These methods have been live actually for many years through the IDIS or the EIDAS program, the European ID program. And these will all be slowly getting upgraded to IDIS 2.0, which will be using the same standards as the mobile driver's licenses. And we're deeply partnered with each of these companies who are supporting these ID cards and have timelines mapped out. We can send you, our adoption ebook and PDFs around this. But this is not a sales call, and I sometimes forget that. So I'll go more into the technical details. What we found is that it's really hard to actually test. So the first feature we've made here is turning on a test environment where if you want to try a verification now, you can actually go through this flow without needing to have a real ID. And then you can trigger a success or a failure state. So you can actually implement this whole API without needing to deal with wrangling any of your PII going through the platform. We can trigger a success, which would return back a mock credential. The failure would return back various error codes. We're actively developing better tools for that. Suffice to say, we've taken the best learnings of, like Twilio, Stripe, Auth0, and tried to put them into this API. You can directly integrate these methods by putting a button like you saw Ollie do. You can also white label a pre-built workflow, which you can go through this pre-built workflow here with any of the methods that you have enabled. In this case, I will share my California DMV license by showing a QR code now. This is the desktop flow that Ollie was talking about. And then I'm going to scan this with my phone here. And I have that same verification request you saw Ollie show on his phone. And then once I accept that, you're going to see my lovely PII, which is already all over the internet with these demos. So yes, I am almost 30. Happy birthday, Michael, in about almost exactly actually a month. And this is my driver's license. We also, which is not included here, show a base64 encoded portrait image, which you may not know, but that is really nice for some of that biometric authentication Ollie talked about. If you want to do a server-side biometric auth, you can actually face match now with the base64 encoded portrait from my mDL. Okay, I'm talking a lot, which is always a red flag. Let me just make sure there's no questions here. Looks like we do have at least one question actually to Ollie. Is your selfie compared with the photo on the mDL? I just answered that. Or is it not necessary as the vetting was done when the ID was issued? Ollie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so this is really it's vetted when the ID was issued, but then the verifier, or actually the relying party, wants to know at that time of a new transaction that the person that's using the mDL, is that really the same person that was issued those credentials with the DMV. So that is that selfie was using not only for liveness but also for comparison against the portrait image on the mDL.
Yep, great answer. Feel free to ask any follow-up questions, Gary, if you're curious. I appreciate the uh, focus on the technicals here because truly with these standards, the devil is in the details here, folks. It's all about how we make the different flavors of a single standard all work in an interoperable way. Just really briefly for the Trinsic platform here, in case you're all curious, like here we can see a log of verifications, which are all available through our API. If it is a test verification done in the dashboard, it will not show the PII data. If it was done through a public interface, it will. You can all navigate to demo.trinsic.id right here and put in your work email if you would like us to send you a sales email, or you can put in like Steve Jobs, may he rest in peace, at apple.com and get a white labeled demo for a website that then allows you to verify your identity. And one thing I'll mention here is that an optional feature to turn on within Trinsic is enabling Remember Me by default. And what this does here is when you start, you can create a session and submit a message, or sorry, submit a phone number, and then do a 2FA code here, where I'll look at my phone and pick that up. 398673. And then you can get this view here. What the phone number does is that if someone has gone through a Trinsic or a Trinsic partners flow before and chosen to remember me, we can actually personalize this list to the method that they used last. So it can even be launched directly based on their phone number. Or if we scan an ID card, we can actually save their information in a reusable ID wallet, which is, like I mentioned, end-to-end encrypted, such that their physical ID attributes are stored in kind of this identity wallet, which is basically a cached payload of identity information encrypted by their passkey that can be authenticated and shared at any future date with their passkey during this flow. Similar to actually the passkey registration that Ollie showed. We have a couple more questions. I'll just now launch briefly into our documentation here. Just to show you all like for me the next steps for all of you here is to invite you to sign up to our dashboard. We have a 10-day free trial of any of these features and methods. We don't want to have any like friction on you evaluating whether Trinsic is the right fit for your use case. Everyone, including the government ID card vendors, are looking for use cases to champion, and they're looking for proofs of concept and pilots and feedback. So use Trinsic to build a proof of concept, and please give your feedback to both us, and we can relay any feedback to the wallet providers to get this more adopted more quickly. Primarily to enable all of us to reduce our friction and fraud in onboarding. We have working code samples in all of these major programming languages for server-side and these client-side frameworks. Note, I said working code samples, which we care about deeply. Whoops, that is a weird photo. We have these running the samples and tested regularly, and then you can actually go into any one of these and just run your toolchain to get the sample running, and then from there go through the flow. The primary steps here are to basically create two API calls. The first one is a create session endpoint, where you will pass the attributes from your front end and the parameters to create a session into your backend, enrich that with your authentication token right here, and then go through to return the result back. In that result for a session, you will get a access key for what we call a result access key right here, which you will then create a second endpoint where in the result access key, you can pass that in to fetch the result for that session and respond back to your front end with any of the results, or use this in your identity verification workflow to pass or fail your onboarding user. All right, I feel like I should stop talking. So I'm happy to now answer questions.
Michael, there's an open
Ollie?
question, so I'll go ahead and take this one.
Great, please.
So the liveness is configurable, so it's not a requirement, but it's the vendor, the company chose to have that as part of their onboarding requirement anyway. So I just kind of wanted to show you what's possible and what's in kind of business scope right now. So we at Mitek also have, so the image that we took during the selfie is used for two purposes. One, to ensure liveness, it's a real live person and not a spoof, not a replay. And then also for comparison purposes. We generally do a comparison between the selfie and the portrait image, whether it's from the ID document. In this case, what we showed today was from the mDL, but it can also be done against passports. It can be done against in other markets, and passports have NFC chips, and we can extract data. We can use that. It's a high assurance way to verify. So we would take the data and the digital signatures that are in the NFC chip for passports and other supported ID documents that have those NFC chips, and then use that high resolution picture that's in the NFC chip of that user and compare that against the selfie. So I hope that answers the question in the QA.
Great, thank you. And I actually, if people would like to use some of this time on the call to uh, make their first session and try this out, I'm happy to stay on. No, I'm not trying to uh, pressure sell or anything, but you go to dashboard.trinsic.id right here, and then I'll be logged in already. And then you can just sign up with your email or one of these things. And from there, the kind of next steps that we recommend is going to our docs, deciding on the providers. In this case, you could just have a test provider on. And then you can customize either in this dashboard here or, like I mentioned, in the demo environment. The demo environment is going to be our instance. So if you go to the dashboard, you could add a logo, change the accent color, make this anything you want to, and then you can try it out. And finally, get your access token here. I probably shouldn't use our integration tests one, that might break things, but I'll go here to the access token, and then I'll go into our documentation. And one thing I'm really happy about is we're using a documentation platform that actually allows us to do interactive API calls. So I can just paste that here, and then make sure that I have these query parameters filled out. I'm doing list sessions. If I go here, you can actually just use this as like a postman sort of tool. So I disabled remember me. I'm just gonna allow all providers. I'm gonna allow all fields. I'm gonna click try it here. And if everything works well and the demo gods are in my favor, I might need to put token in the front of this actually or something. This is where I would blame the Wi-Fi, but it's probably just a problem with how I've configured the interactive session here. You can throw your access token into the docs for a sandbox app and then try it out. And I will figure out why this is not returning. We have some more questions, so I'll jump into there instead. Has legislation/ISO been helpful or a hindrance to adoption? What would you like to see added or changed about the legislation process? A legal question. I am not as involved with this, Andy. I've primarily been focused on taking what does get passed and then built and putting it into our product. I would say, in general, most of the discussions have had the assumption that, for example, banks or other relying parties would be the primary implementers of the standard. As Ollie can tell you, there is this massive identity verification industry built up where effectively every single bank in the US is partnered with a vendor to do identity verification. And uh, we've felt at Trinsic that these standards will be adopted through the existing ecosystem. Now, I don't know if it's true that legislators are not talking about it in that way, but I like to talk about the software lasagna that exists already. And people sometimes assume that it's like, relying party is the implementer, but there needs to be space in our data flow in the privacy regulations and in the data flows for there to be basically at least clarity on how a data controller and a data processor can be interacting with this data effectively. Because some countries, especially in the EU, are very strict about, like, for example, the government must know exactly which business is verifying their ID card. And if you think about the physical ID cards today, that's not the case, right? Like I can show my MDL anywhere, or I can show my driver's license anywhere I want to. We don't necessarily need that level of portability, but just in the legislation, knowing that the level of adoption is directly tied to the ease of integration, and that vendors will be integrating this, so that we need to help vendors integrate it easily without jumping through a bunch of hurdles. That is going to speed up adoption massively. Hope that helps. Does the new standard support remote prompting of the ID with needing to scan a QR? Let's see. I love your questions, Gary. Remote prompting of the ID with needing to scan a QR, e.g. on a telemarketing call. I believe it does, but I also think that may be some sort of out of band prompt, Gary. I don't think it will be something supported by the spec itself. So the use case I'm envisioning here, oh, without QR. I think so. I mean, Ollie actually showed the initiation of a deep link. What I would present to you as a user experience, let's say I'm calling into my telco provider and I need to access my account. I've forgotten my password. They rightly so don't want to just give that to me without some sort of identity verification. And so they first ask me, well, yeah, they can send me a text message asking me to initiate my identity verification via deep link on my mobile app. I click that deep link and then go through an ID flow. That is a remote prompt from what I understand that definition to be, but I would consider that an out-of-band remote prompt. So it's not necessarily in the spec. There can be push notifications as well through apps that then launch the digital wallet. And email. Basically, you can have a link or a push notification that eventually resolves to a deep link to launch the digital ID card wallet. I believe that is what you are referring to. I could be wrong, though. Feel free to correct me. All right, we have 13 minutes left. Anything top of mind for you, Ali? I don't want to dominate the space too much.
Yeah, no, there's another one that's come in. Let me read this.
Okay, yeah.
This might be a little technical for me, so I'm gonna probably write the answer back to Brian here.
Okay, I'll give my stab at it too while you write. And thank you, Brian, for the questions. I really appreciate you guys asking hard questions for us because we're really just looking for feedback and trying to find ways to to make a better product and build something that people can easily adopt. Let's see. So I don't know if people can see all these questions. The question Brian asks is, I understand the importance of liveness checks, but my question pertains to mDLs and the intended and actual level of assurance when a shared mDL is presented into a service. As a relying party, like Turtle, for example, can one be reasonably certain that an mDL came from the person to whom it was issued without a liveness check? So the short answer is, it depends. It depends on how it was given to the individual in the first place. And for like California DMV, from what I understand, I already had my physical driver's license, and then I had to do a liveness check and a selfie document scan to get that on my phone. I also had to authenticate to my DMV account with a password that I have. And then after all of that, this driver's license is tied to a single device. And so it is higher assurance than just a document scan. Like you know, something that where you take the front and back of a driver's license and then a selfie. There are still attack vectors here, but I would be willing to claim at this point, again, with a bunch of caveats saying that we can only test this really after it's been live longer. I would be willing to claim that it is higher assurance. At least it basically ties in some cryptographic authentication into your identity verification. So we've called this like cryptographic identity verification because at the end of the day, what we are doing here is cryptographically verifying that you can share a biometric authentication that took place at a previous date. We call this connecting people to verifications they've already done. We used to call our product Trinsic Connect for that reason. And then you can do additional step-up liveness checks. So I also like to say that right now, this is primarily an input to your identity verification flow. You probably still want to do some sort of additional check, whatever that means to you, if you need to hit a regulatory level of compliance. Gary is asking, wow, Gary and Brian, thank you for all your questions. Everyone else, be bold. I encourage you to be bold here and ask some questions, challenge me a little bit, call me on anything you feel like I'm wrong about. The best way to learn things is to be wrong on the internet, and I'm happy to do that here. Is mDL revocation or suspension supported? I believe it is, but it is facilitated by the issuer. And I am not the mDL issuer in this situation, but I would expect that it is. It likely is also linked to the like canonical authoritative government database, and also linked to AMVA. And there are already tried and true processes for revoking your driver's license in the physical world. There's some sort of authoritative database that people can check. That's likely also coming into play here and not just like revoking the cryptographic key material. Okay, we have some more time left, and I'm happy to basically share or show anything that would be useful here. I don't want to assume that something I'm going to share is useful, so I can also basically point you all to a couple of resources to learn more. We can go, oh, we have some chat messages too. Sharing the last slide, great. Oh yeah, okay. I'll go back to some slide shares. We have some content there that I have not shared yet. Okay. Great. Thank you, Kelly, for keeping me a little bit more on track. And thank you everyone for your questions. We will be doing these webinars regularly. Gary, these will not be likely used in voting. That opens a huge can of worms that I don't think are basically it's not mature enough yet for that. That's a very sensitive operation, as we all know, at least in America right now. So the last slide here, I walked through most of this stuff. Next steps here, like I mentioned, there are a variety of hackathons that the California DMV is hosting. I'll be going to those and sharing some insights through blog posts. Our next steps here are to gather feedback from pilots that are now going live in Q4 and in the next half of next year, the first half of next year. And we're really looking for feedback on each of these levels of the BLT sandwich. Super happy to have you all on the call today. I'll stay on for the next 5 minutes. That is all that we have to share. So thank you very much.
Why don't you go one more slide?
Yeah, I was going to say, just if anyone has any questions, want to follow up with us.
Thank you. Yep. If you have any questions, we've got Ali and myself here with our emails. And yeah, happy to answer any questions now that anyone else has, if you'd like to continue asking some until the top of the hour.
And I'll just add that thanks everyone for joining. We will be sharing out the deck and the recorded video with you all via email, probably by tomorrow. So this contact information will be in that email as well. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining.
Take care. Bye-bye.